have to have a degree of critical thinking skills and personal responsibility that the only person that is responsible for looking into things and figuring out the truth is you. I think that's why people voted for Trump, is because politicians have promised hope and change and they never get it done. Oh my gosh, I had a really good conversation with someone yesterday at the annual Farm Bureau convention. That was just the Iowa Event Center. It's finishing up today. It was yesterday and today about that very topic.
Well, tell me about it.
Ethanol. Are we rolling or?
Probably.
Oh, we are rolling.
He's sneaky like that.
I like it. Well, the carbon pipeline, that whole debate that's been going on about potential CO2 pipeline going in. There was multiple proposed, and then some of them got shut down. The one that was in my home county got shut down so far, but they're still pushing this one up kind of in northwest Iowa. And
I don't know anything about it. Tell me what a carbon pipeline is.
Okay, so do you want like the version you're going to hear from the media, or
No, I want to know what it is. I want to know what
a
it
carbon
really is.
pipeline is essentially what it sounds like, a pipeline that they put underground. Forget how many feet. Don't fact check me on it. 5-6 feet down underground that moves CO2.
Okay.
So ethanol plants in, I think, the Dakotas are wanting to install one so they can put it underground, put it all the way across Iowa, right? Put this pipeline underground to transport all the CO2 in like a giant cave in Illinois, a super big cavern, because CO2 is bad for the environment, right? So this ethanol plant is pumping out a crap ton of it. They're getting docked. They have like a limit of how much they can produce in a day because they can only output so much CO2. So the best solution is, let's put a giant pipeline across the state of Iowa, which is dangerous, by the way. CO2, right? It can kill people. And it's just a matter of when something happens with the pipeline, not if it happens, because leaks happen in the real world. Yes, we're in Iowa, and yes, we don't have massive earthquakes, but there are things that could potentially cause errors within a CO2 pipeline.
Right.
So that could escape, kill people. It's happened before, multiple cases. I think Mississippi is one where they had one where people died and had brain damage as well. And they want to transport it over to Illinois to get rid of it. And that's like
crazy.
their solution. And they're trying to use eminent domain,
How
even
do
though
they
it's
do it now?
private company. Eminent domain is for what? Government. This is a private company, and they're trying to use eminent domain to put it all across Iowa.
So they're essentially, the government's coming in and buying property along
Well,
the
it's not
pipeline.
even the government. It's this it's a private company.
Only the government can use eminent domain, right? So they.
But the Board of Utilities passed it.
No.
So someone up in politics.
How do they get rid of it now? They just let it go into the air?
But it caps how much they can produce in a day then, right? They're like, okay, you can only output this much CO2 in a day. You can only produce this much ethanol. And they're saying, we want to produce more, right? Let's increase profits. Let's produce more. Right. Well, then you got to do something with all that CO2. You need to offset it. So their best idea was, we'll work with another corporate company. We'll pump it into a giant cave. It's underground forever and ever, amen, and everyone's happy.
How much does this project cost, do you know?
I don't know.
It's crazy.
Insane amounts, though. Insane amounts for what it's doing.
How do you maintain a pipeline under the ground? I mean, that's a hypothetical question. Like, that's kind of insane.
Like, you mean, what if something goes awry?
Well, how do you know that something's going awry?
The case that occurred in Mississippi, people started passing out.
Okay, so people were just walking along and they just fainted.
And what CO2 does is it goes into valleys. It goes into low-lying areas based off diffusion or whatever, science. And so people that live in those areas are going to be more susceptible, but it could kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, CO2 kills if you
and you won't know it. It's not like a colorful gas. They're going to be like, oh, here it comes, the green fog. Like, no, it's just going to get you. And
you turn on your car and sit in your garage, you're going to eventually die, right?
It's happened a few times in historical.
Okay. Well, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's literally tied to corporate greed. But they like to wrap this little bow in it and greenwash it.
Tied to greed.
And they say, oh, but CO2 is bad. We got to do something with it. This is a good solution. And it's like, we could just put cover crops over 70% more farm ground in Iowa. That would capture a butt ton of it.
Right.
And that would cost way less and be way less intrusive and not take advantage of eminent domain against the people.
Right.
Why isn't that solution being talked about? Why is it something that's actually harmful and risky and expensive? 100%.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes you feel like you're turning into a pessimist sometimes when you start looking at things, you start tracking it, and you're like, oh, does it always come back to corporate greed?
Always comes back to money.
Like, what
Everything
the heck?
comes back to money.
It's
because
disappointing.
unfortunately you have to have money to live, right? So you have
do.
to have money to pay for your bills. You have to have money to eat. You have to, you can't fish anymore without a license. You can't hunt anymore without a license, right? Some places you can't capture rainwater without a license.
It's true.
I don't even know if you can't do that here.
I think you can here.
You can't capture rainwater?
If we can't, I've been doing it.
We're going to edit that out.
Me. But in Colorado, yeah. I remember having that
can't,
conversation
right?
with my cousins.
Yeah.
They're in Loveland, and they're like, yeah, you cannot do that.
Absolutely not. Not even for your own garden, I don't think.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Seems a little communistic, in my opinion.
It's definitely not as the freedom that we talk about on 4th of July, right? I mean, I do think that we're probably the freest country currently and still, but also it comes back to, really that comes back to European ancestry where the king had the king's wood or whatever, and you poached. If you went in and took one of his deer out, you were a poacher. You weren't allowed to have that. And I don't think that they do that here. I know they try to, quote-unquote, control the population of the deer, but, man, they'd really control it if they just let people shoot deer whenever they wanted to, right? I mean, it's just deer and rabbits. They're what? They're food. They're the food of the forest, essentially. That's what other animals, predatory animals, eat.
I am thankful, though, that we do have a pretty good DNR here in Iowa that has management and restrictions and rules in place that I think are very beneficial to good, healthy deer and even rabbit populations.
That's probably true. I believe you if you say that. I believe
Okay.
that's probably true. I don't know. I'm not a hunter. I've never stalked out into the woods to kill something.
As a non-hunter, I think all you should know is that we are extremely lucky here in Iowa to have the system in place that we do currently. Okay. There are other states in the Midwest that should have way bigger deer, better age structure. World-class deer.
Is it because they allow more hunting than they should?
It's because of the regulations they have in place that have ruined some of the age structure and age class in deer. I mean, if you look at Iowa and you look at all the surrounding Midwestern states, Minnesota has better habitat. Wisconsin has more habitat. Missouri, for Jiminy Chrysler's sake, way more habitat, right? Right over that border.
Okay.
Why is it that we still have mega deer here?
You're saying because they have more forests and rivers and places where deer would thrive, and we're farmland, essentially, we still have a better population of animals to hunt.
And bigger deer. That's a huge thing, right? Not everyone wants to shoot 1 and 2 year olds. They want to shoot Bambi's father.
They're
want to
eating all
shoot the
that
big
GMO
dogs.
corn that we got here, right?
Partially, I think there's some implications involved with that, but from a geographical habitat perspective, Iowa, I think, is less than 5% timber at this point. Like that number just keeps going down a little bit more every year, but we're clearing all the timber in this state.
Do you know or do you imagine if this was ever a wooded state? Was it?
At a point, there was a lot more savanna.
Okay.
Prairie savanna, so like oak savannas, if you're familiar with all of the oak species that are native to Iowa, that's what timbers would have been more like when Iowa was a prairie.
Okay.
Most of Iowa was more like short grass prairie.
It was mostly cleared though, right? It wasn't.
Yes.
We haven't knocked it all down. We say maybe pioneer days. I don't know what to call it. Maybe it was 15-20% trees, and we've made more farmland out of it than not.
I don't know what the percent would have been, but definitely more than it is now.
Maybe, sure. Because
we've clear cut a lot of timber, but a lot of that timber is maybe 100 years old, and a lot of those species weren't even native, right? There's a list of native species to Iowa, and you go out in a timber now, and you're looking all sorts of invasive species that were introduced and are taking over and are really actually unhealthy for a healthy forest stand.
And you're talking about plants that people have brought here from somewhere else.
Correct.
Planted, and then it just,
sometimes people,
whether
sometimes
it's a
animals.
Squirrel picks it up, sure. Or
those
wolf
guilty little bastards.
Yeah.
They'll get you.
They're so cute, but they're so dangerous, right?
Oh, man. Are they really that cute? I don't know.
I mean, they're cuter than some animals.
It's true. I'm also someone that, like, I saw a possum video the other day, and I was showing my boyfriend. I was like, how cute? And he was like, a possum? I was like, you don't think it's cute? He's like, no.
No. It's about as cute as an armadillo.
Yeah. I think armadillos are cute.
Of course you would.
I don't know. I think I try to see the beauty in a lot of wildlife and nature in general.
Sure. I mean, they're beautiful in their own way, right?
Yeah. They're a little quirky.
Yeah. Just have people, I came from Arizona, and people would come down there and say, well, this state is just like ugly. It's barren, and that's no. You got to go out into it. You got to find the spots.
I agree.
It's dangerous if you're out there alone. You don't want to be out in the desert alone, but
Yeah.
you can find some really great spots out there. Nature is absolutely crazy. So I follow you on Instagram. I followed you ever since I met you. And I'm always extremely impressed at how you have built your Instagram. You do a lot of videos. One of the things we talked about was soda, and you were talking about how you had you called it a bug of some sort, right? You were making
a ginger bug.
Ginger bug.
Fermented soda,
Yeah.
yes.
And so your Instagram is always extremely informative, it feels like.
Thank you.
What makes you want to make a ginger bug? I almost said gingerbread bug. I think it's the season.
It is Christmas season.
And then what makes you go, I want to make a video about this? Like, why is that? Is there what ticks off in your head like this will make a great video?
I think it's when I realize that a lot of people don't know about something.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy it. So I think in my mind, why not share it?
Right.
And make a video that's fun and maybe a little humorous in there and interesting to watch.
Right.
So someone else can enjoy the same things that I do.
So also, I think that your videos are really good. Like, I watch them and I critique them a lot.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Give me your spreadsheet later.
I mean, I'm telling you, like, then I have to ask, like, does she have a whole crew around her when she does this? I mean, I know you have a drone. I saw your video about, if you live in Iowa, you should have a drone. Mm-hmm. And then I saw that I see that your drone footage. Now, does somebody operate that drone, or do you have it set to where it tracks you?
Oh, when it's filming me,
Yeah,
you mean?
like when you're running out in the cornfields or whatever.
Yep.
That's not a real thing. I don't think she runs out in the cornfields, but
That'd be a lot of cuts on the arms. It would not be a fun shower later. So there's a feature on my drone that has an active track. So there's a screen on my remote controller, and I can select myself and then select active track and choose which angle it will record me at, and then it will just follow me as I
follow
move.
you around.
Or there's another feature, and this is kind of a hack because not everyone knows about this, and I think it can make for a prettier shot. Is you can, oh my gosh, I'm blanking now on what it's called, but you can essentially set the trajectory of the drone, and then just say I want it to go this direction for this many seconds, and then curve at the end, and
You're
do this with the
programming it to
gimbal.
do the thing.
Programming,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I just forget what it's called. And then press record, and then go do your movement.
And then the drone goes off, and then you've got to make sure you're in front of it the whole time.
But
that's great exercise.
Sometimes it's like a trial and error, right? Because you're like, how fast if it's going, 4 point whatever meters in a second, how fast am I going to be running? So sometimes it's like a mental game of like, okay, how am I going to make this work? But I think it creates a prettier shot sometimes than the active track feature.
Sure. How many takes do you do when you do the bug, the ginger bug thing?
Oh, usually one.
One? Okay.
Yeah, what I normally do is I just take lots of videos and then I put it into a program or an app, and then I just edit it all together from there. But normally it's just one go.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I can BS. I don't know.
Yeah. One thing I do like about your videos, and this isn't a critique of you, but you're out of the box. Right? You're like, okay, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. Doesn't matter whether my hair is messy. It doesn't matter whether I'm about to throw this dumbbell
messy
into the air or spin around and catch it, right? Or what are they called? Kettlebell?
Kettlebells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, you're just there. It's very authentic.
And I think social media is going to go more in that direction as time keeps going, because in the general scheme of things, social media is pretty new. And the whole concept of an influencer, which I hate that word, or a content creator, if you will, is also very new. But then it got so big and kind of exploited that there's so many big influencers out there that are promoting products they don't use, they don't care about.
Right.
They're not even good products, but they're getting paid by that company to talk about it. Right. And I think more people are realizing, I don't know how much I really want to follow or listen to this quote unquote influencer, because I know they're just pushing it at me because they're getting paid.
They don't seem authentic.
Yes.
What you're saying. So, and you
and
can tell
authenticity
when
is
somebody's lying about something.
100%. people want to feel like they know you, but to a degree, if it's being like a fake facade, I think people are way more intuitive to other people's genuineness than what we realize.
Right. I had a friend, Don, her name's Lauren, and we talked a little bit about Trump. Would you want to talk about Trump a little bit?
I'll talk about Trump. I love Trump Daddy.
I like to say I'm not a Trump supporter. But I'm not an anybody supporter. I've never given a politician money in their campaign. I've never voted. I voted once. I voted for Obama. I know that sounds bad to some people. I know that sounds great to some people.
That was the first time you voted ever?
It was the only time I ever voted for
Really?
president.
Oh, that's interesting.
So one of the things he said, and I said this on another podcast, is he promised hope and change, and then he didn't bring about hope and change, right? And so that was the biggest thing. And then I'm starting to get a little concerned that there is no such thing as hope and change or change in politics. However, recently with Trump's cabinet, and nobody had most of these people on their bingo card for what's about to happen, I'm actually pretty stunned. Now, only stunned because I think that these people are going to make a difference somehow, whether it's good or bad. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
On specific people that he's chosen as cabinet, or just overall?
The whole overall, and then any
like
specifics that
picking
you're like...
Elon Musk to be in government when he's just a billionaire CEO.
To be fair, I don't think he's going to actually be in government. I think he is just going to be a person who... He already has top secret clearance, and I believe he's going to have access to the information. I think he's going to be able to make recommendations.
Yes.
So I don't think he's actually in the cabinet. I do feel like that's a bit of a publicity stunt, although I think that for a man who bought Twitter, turned it into X, got rid of most people, and that thing is still going and probably thriving now, even though I don't pay attention to that. I imagine he would have already shut it down if it was going to make him lose any more money. He doesn't seem like the type of person who's just losing money. So I think that it was a good choice to get him and Vivek in there to do some things. So that, you're right. That was a good one. But overall, you'd say credit score, he did pretty good.
I'm excited. I'm anxious to see kind of what happens. But because so many of his picks for different positions, Secretary of Ag, for example, Brooke, no one really knows where she's coming from. What does she do? What is her stance on certain things? She's kind of out there in left field in terms of a politician's pick. It's hard to sometimes know. You hope that he has that relationship built and he knows them much better than we do as the public, which is usually the case. But I think he also is someone, Donald Trump, that picks people more out of loyalty sometimes than their report card or their resume.
Okay.
Because for him, I mean, he got shot at this year. Like, his head has been on a chopping block in multiple ways. The government tried to get rid of him. Someone tried to kill him. He has to look at people and say, do they have my best interest and this country's best interest? And they're not just a political person swimming in the swamp.
Sure.
So from that point of view, I think I have a lot more trust in him because he isn't picking people that are politicians. He reached out to Joel Salatin, who is a huge regenerative farmer. He's probably really like the father of regenerative ag in terms of North America and the United States. He asked him to be a part of the cabinet. He's partnering with RFK. I'm a big RFK fan. There's so many people that are not your traditional politicians. And I think that's why people voted for Trump, is because politicians have promised hope and change and they never get it done.
Right.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's money, like you said. I think it's always money. I think lobbying shouldn't be legal. I don't think that anybody who is in the Senate or in Congress should be wealthy. I think that
Shouldn't be able to have stocks.
they shouldn't be able to trade stocks. They should be able to come in with the stocks that they have, and if they want to cash out their stocks before they start doing it, I think they should be able to. Then they can buy them back later. I mean, there's lots of stuff. I mean, it's easy, but also it's easier for somebody like me who doesn't have a whole lot of money to want to make rules on the wealthy,
Right.
which I don't really want to do, but I want to make rules on the government.
Yeah.
And Republican and Democrat and Independent, all the same. Bernie Sanders, for all of his talking about billionaires and whatever, he's got plenty of money too.
Oh yeah.
And so he doesn't have as much as everybody else, but he's got plenty of money.
Yeah.
And he's probably earned it
Right.
one way or the other. He seems authentic to me. There's only a couple of politicians that really seem authentic to me.
Who were some of the other ones?
I would say Kennedy in Louisiana, like he's a senator. He's a senator, I think. Yeah. Have you ever seen or heard of him?
I think so.
He's an older guy. He's always saying something like,
Way
that
out
ain't
left
worth
field.
a frog's turd and a
Yes.
unicorn's
Okay, now I know what you're
left
talking
eye, right? But and I don't know where he comes up with this shit because
being
but he's
himself.
right. Yeah, he's just right on the button every time.
Yeah.
Imagine his life was probably pretty amazing. He's be able to pull this shit out of his back pocket anytime he wants to. So,
Right.
I like. This is gonna sound weird. I like the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the what's her name? What's the other side? Acacia Cortez, whatever.
Oh yeah.
I like that chaos because I think there has to be that chaos in there to make things seem normal when they should be normal. But also, you need those people who are going to push the envelope on both sides. You need those people who are going to stand and push for the people who need to be stood up and pushed for, right? Alexandria, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm butchering her name, I'm sure. AOC. She's probably done some good work. I don't really know. I know what like Fox News wants to tell me. I know what CNN wants to tell me. I know what Tucker Carlson wants to tell me. I know what Joe Rogan might want to tell me. But really, I reserve all judgment. I don't really know. They keep voting her in, so she must be doing something that her people like.
Right.
That guy John Fetterman, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
I
Baldy.
actually liked him before, even when he was, when he had his heart attack or his whatever he had that was his health issue. I liked the fact that the people of his state still wanted him. And I think that means a lot to me, that the people of his state can still vote him in, even if he's having health issues. I believe that any person who the state wants to represent them, if there was a special needs person that got out of college or was whatever, and they decided to run for governor of this state, and we all voted for that special needs person, regardless of whether they're Down syndrome or they were autistic, and we all decided this was the person for us, I would want that person to be in there. Because that's who we voted for. That's who we wanted as our representative. That's an extreme case, but also I love the fact that Pennsylvania said, no, he's still our guy. Mm-hmm. This is still our guy. This is the guy. They know him. They knew him better than I knew him.
Yeah.
They knew him better than Fox News knew him. They knew him better, and Fox News wanted to trash him because he's having a hard time speaking, but that's ridiculous. This is still their representative. It's their representative.
The media has the ability to paint people however they want you to perceive
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. And they all do it. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people in the country that are midwits who don't know how to think for themselves. They don't want to critically think about what's actually happening. And you also have people who can do that, but they choose not to because they feel safer. So we've got a lot of that going on too now, I think, is where people like, if I don't hear about Trump, then I'll be fine. If I don't hear about Biden, I'll be fine. And it's really strange times. I think the world's gonna come back in a way. I don't know what I mean by that yet.
I think it's going to hit something really hard before it's going to be able to come back.
It's gonna be interesting coming up. I don't know what's coming up, but I know that the president was probably the incoming president was they probably tried to assassinate him. I don't really mean that in a conspiratorial way, but some people have tried to assassinate him twice that we know of. Mm-hmm. And from what I would gather, probably there are lots of attempts that Americans don't ever get to know of. So that's ridiculously crazy. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's a weird world. There was that guy Daniel Penny or whatever who was on the subway and he subdued a man and the man passed away and he was on trial for murder, and all he was trying to do was protect the people in the train. Mm-hmm. And he was acquitted a couple days ago after a long, arduous journey. This was in 2020 or 21.
Oh, jeez.
That this happened, and he just finally came out the other end of that. And all he wanted to do was protect people. He was a former Marine. He was a veteran. And he was just trying to protect people. I have to believe that man was trying to protect people. I can't believe that somebody who probably had multiple opportunities to go into war and kill people came to a subway, and a person on the subway got way out of line and started threatening people, that he thought, this is the time this is my opportunity to
just kill someone,
to murder
for fun.
somebody. Yeah.
Probably not his thought process.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, but I think that there's some shifts in the world. I think masculinity is cleansing itself of the toxicity. I think people are starting to stand back up and say, we're not going to put up with certain things anymore.
Yeah.
I think that the ship is starting to right a little bit. I think the pandemic really kind of
it
fucked us hard.
It was a catalyst, no doubt.
Yeah.
It was an eye-opening thing for me, not just the COVID thing, but I had a lot of other things going on in my life that just kind of compounded on top of that. Mm-hmm. And looking back to the person I was in 2019 versus now, it's like, that girl, don't even know if I'd recognize her if I saw her, had a conversation with her, because I'm just leaps and bounds different person.
What is the biggest difference
in who I am now?
Yeah, if you look back at that girl, what did she do or didn't she do?
She was still pretty naive, as I think a lot of Iowans can be, because
a lot of people.
We trust people, and we want to trust people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to have a degree of critical thinking skills and personal responsibility, that the only person that is responsible for looking into things and figuring out the truth is you. And it's not your college professor, it's not your parents, it's not the news, it's you. The buck stops with you. And I think that's probably the biggest difference from then to now.
So back then you might have been the type of person who would read something and believe it.
Yeah.
Because it was written down.
Yeah. If the news, why would they put it out? I thought that, the news media wasn't allowed to say things if they weren't true.
Sure.
I thought that you went to jail for that. You know what I mean? I was like, if someone posts something in a newspaper and it's not true, well, it cannot be true because they'd go to jail. And then, COVID happens, and I'm like, oh, Lord, was I wrong? It's not at all true.
So odd, isn't it?
It's fascinating. But the school system, and I can't blame the public school system, but it seems like the education system had some sway in my belief, and maybe it was journalism class, or maybe it was certain departments of school, that they can't put false information out there.
Well, journalists have whatever decree that they make when they come out and they become journalists, that there's a certain credo or something that they espouse and tell people, we won't do these things.
Is that still in existence?
It is in existence, and I think that that's probably going to start coming back too. But I think it's a little too late for the news channels and the newspapers. I think that you've got people like Glenn Greenwald, who have now, I don't know if you know who that is, but he used to be, well, I think he's still liberal or left leaning, right? But he's also one of the people who got the Twitter files from Elon Musk and went through all that stuff, right? And so you've got people like him who broke off. They don't work for those companies anymore, and then they work on not Patreon, but there's another website where you can go and you can sign up for people's blogs, basically. But he does that there. Highly intelligent man. I would say he's still very left-leaning, but also the left doesn't like him anymore because he kind of outed a lot of things that were going on in the Twitter files. And you know what the Twitter files were, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so I think that a lot of real journalists and probably older people who are journalists are breaking away from that, and they're trying to find a different way to go. Like Tucker Carlson's got his own network now. that's all well and good. I don't know that I've really seen any interviews that he's done that have like lit me up. Like I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Listen to the Dave Ramsey one.
The Dave Ramsey one, is that recent?
I enjoyed it. A month or two ago.
So Dave Ramsey, he's the economist.
He's the money guy.
Yeah, he's the money guy. And he's the one who says pay off your debts slowly and then over time it builds up. Yeah.
Yep. And he
good.
believes in paying with cash, and he kind of has all these methods and this plan essentially to get people out of debt.
Yeah, I think some of it, I've never like read his book, whatever it was. It's not Rich Man, Poor Man, is it? I don't remember what it was. But
I've never read it either.
I've never read his book, but I think that my grandfather probably instilled a lot of what he said. My grandfather said, if you can't pay for it with cash, you don't need it.
Well, you don't have the money.
Right. And we could go down a whole road with that, but I'll watch that one. I'll definitely watch
I
that
enjoyed
one.
it, and they get into other things outside of just economist talk and money and whatnot.
Sure.
But I don't know. I like Tucker as an interviewer. I think he has a good amount of asking direct questions and just flowing with the conversation, and I personally enjoyed it.
I like him as an interviewer. I think I like him as a person because I think he's got integrity. I think he's very authentic. I don't know that for a fact, but it's a feeling that I get. I like how he is willing to tell you where he was wrong. Mm-hmm. And he'll come into a story and say, well, I might not be right, but this is how I feel about it. And he doesn't say, this is the way it is, and this is the way it's got to be.
Right.
And I really enjoy that about him. I enjoy anybody who wants to have a conversation and is willing to understand that they don't know everything. You can't know everything.
They want to have the discussion, though.
That they want to have a discussion, and even though I don't agree with everything that he says. I agree with a lot of what he says. I don't agree with what Glenn Greenwald says on the left side, but I agree with a lot of what he says. It's amazing how many things everybody agrees on, but it's also amazing how somehow there are these things in the world that we all fight over that are almost don't even completely matter.
Right.
In your own world, right?
Right.
You could be against gay marriage, but why? Like, I mean, I'm not gay and I don't want to marry a man, but why am I going to be upset if two guys want to get together? I'm not.
Right.
And so there's other better things to put your mind to, get things done, do shit in your world. What's your sphere of influence? What can you do to help your family, your friends? How do you have the strength to reach out to your family and your friends if you need help? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of this mumbo jumbo that people listen to is essentially that little girl that you'd have a conversation with. She would listen to other people and not go to the heart of where the information is. Mm-hmm. Now you seem like the type of person who travels. If you need to know something, you go find that information. You actually go to the spot and you find out what you need to know.
Right.
And sometimes I wish I had the financial ability to do that. When something hits the news that this is what's happening at the border, this is going on in New York City, I'm like, I'd love to just go and look myself, honestly.
And honestly, believe it or not, you probably, if you really wanted to do that, you probably could figure it out.
Oh, yeah. If it was high on my priority list,
high on your priority
absolutely
list,
I could.
Yeah,
but it's not extremely high. It's my curiosity just besting me.
What is high on your priority list?
And just life?
So you've got, you've got goals. Obviously, everybody's got goals. I think that you probably have goals. You might not have thought necessarily to prioritize them, but I'm wondering, do you know what's your next big thing? I know you were just in California, I think LA. Mm-hmm. At some point, that was a goal.
That one was kind of a pop-up goal.
Was it?
It really was. And I'm flexible with a lot of things. Mm-hmm. As opportunities come, I kind of put my options in front of me and say, okay, what is going to benefit me more to get me towards my goals, or what opportunities are here that maybe they don't get me towards my goals, but I'm not sure if I'll get this opportunity again. Just kind of weighing things.
In terms of overall goals, though, I think one that will always be on a top priority of my hierarchy is health. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that we are in a health crisis right now in America. Yep. And I don't think other things matter as much if your health suffers. And so many people don't get that until, one, it's too late, or two, and I can't say too late, but one, it's too late, or two,
I don't even know where I was going with that.
Health
my
is
train
cool.
thought just went all over the cliff.
Yeah.
Well, nothing else matters if your health isn't
Sure,
there.
if your health is in really huge decline and you're carrying a walker or you're
Yes.
walking around with a walker and you've got a colostomy bag,
Just your quality of life.
Yeah.
And so many people will throw that back at you like, well, I'm fine. I'm like, no, you're not. You're on prescription meds.
Right.
If you're even pre-diabetic, you're not fine. You may not have Alzheimer's yet, but what you're doing, you're gonna have it. Like, so many people are like, well, I'm fine now. And they just don't understand that, like, every decision you make about your health, whether you work out or not, whether you eat this food or that food, is literally making the decision of, do I want to have a longer, more high quality life, or do I want disease?
right.
That's the decision you're making every time you put food, drugs, exercise, lifestyle choices in front of you. That is the fork in the road, and you are going one way or the other. And that's what I think most people don't realize. They see healthy food and they see junk food and they say, well, if I want to be fat, I can eat the junk food. If I'm trying to lose weight, then I eat this food. For so many people, it is
Right.
superficial stuff. And I'm like, put your scale aside for a second. Like, look at those two food options and say, which one is going to feed cancer cells?
Right.
Which one is going to not lead me closer to the cliff of being a diabetic?
Right.
Ask yourself those questions and you will look at a grocery store completely different.
Yes.
You will look at your life completely different. But so many people have not figured that out. And they take prescription drugs like they're Skittles. It absolutely drives me nuts how people find that to be normal.
Do your parents do that?
One of my parents.
Yeah.
My parents are split, and one is like the picture of health. My mom did have cancer when I was in 3rd grade. She had colon cancer. And I think it probably impacted me more than what I realized.
Sure.
And later on,
3rd grade, absolutely.
you know what I mean?
It was definitely
In 3rd grade, I was like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, you know, mom shipped me off to one of my friend's house for a few weeks, and it was like 5 snow days in a row. So I was like, woohoo, this is great. You know, like, you don't realize what's happening. But my mom was a very healthy person. She was not overweight. She was not on drugs.
Right.
Out of the blue, she had colon cancer. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Healthy people don't get colon cancer. And now she's so much better, and she is just a vision, a picture of health. I hope to be as spunky and as awesome and beautiful as she is when I'm her age. And my dad on the other side is complete opposite.
Yeah.
He is just a wreck of health. He is diabetic. He has taken so many prescription drugs, and he chooses that life. It is an active choice, and I don't approve of it whatsoever, but it doesn't matter. It's his life. It's his choice.
Do you think a person in his position could change?
If they want to, yes.
And I guess what I mean, like, will the body come back?
I think the body is way more incredible than what we give it credit for.
I think you're probably right.
I've witnessed it in my own life. I've witnessed it as an observer in other people's life. But I think the narrative is so strong that it's not true, that your body cannot heal itself, and you need some exogenous factor to heal it for you.
Yeah.
That it's almost like the mind won't let people let them heal themselves.
Yeah, I find it odd. Well, I mean, it's one of those things, right? You get up and you dread going to the gym for people who go to the gym, right? The people that travel into
I like going to a gym, but I mean,
you work out at home.
I work out at home.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy going to a gym. There's an aspect of it where it's like, I don't know, there's something fun.
I think that most people, though, they dread it. I think it's an overall dread.
It's a chore.
It's a chore. And then when they get there and they start doing whatever they work out to do, and I'm a victim of this, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And I leave and I feel great for the rest of the day. And then the next day I get up and I'm like, oh, fuck, got to go to the gym, you know, and it's like, but it's something somewhere we've told ourselves that this isn't great. First off, we probably shouldn't need gyms to stay in good shape. The problem is now we're too sedentary, right? We just sit and I look at a computer all day long. It's my job. That's how I afford a gym membership if I want one, right? So I think that overall, I'm hoping that with yoga and, you know, some of the health things that I do, I don't eat a whole lot of sugary stuff now. I do partake from time to time.
Dr. Pepper.
Never Mr. Pibb.
Oh, yeah, there's a big difference there. I do agree with
Is
you
there?
on that. I agree.
Some people in this room would disagree with you.
I've never said that Mr. Pibb is anywhere close to Dr. Pepper ever
It is
once.
different.
It's completely different. I said they both taste good. I never said
Your
that.
first mistake.
Well,
So yeah, okay. So that's a curiosity. My parents, they're boomers. I don't know how old your parents are, but
I think my dad probably qualifies as a boomer.
Okay.
He's an old man.
and they have large bags, like gallon bags of medication. Like I don't know that they take all of them. I think some of them. I think also boomers tend to hoard things. Mm-hmm. And so they just have all these. I'm always like surprised at like walking pharmacies. I'm like, what is all this for? Like, I would think that if you had to take a pill for whatever, high blood pressure, you would go, okay, I don't want to take this pill, so I guess I better figure out what the alternative is to that, which is eating better and getting exercise, right? I used to weigh 275 pounds a long time ago, and I just got tired of being overweight, that grossly overweight. And then I started losing weight, and then people at my work would say, "What is the magic? What are you doing? The pounds are just flying off." I'm like, "Diet and exercise. There's really no other trick." Yeah, they've
Right.
got like Ozempic and things like that, and I guess maybe that works. All that's doing is suppressing your appetite because you don't have the willpower to say, "I shouldn't eat that shit anymore." So it's very strange to me that I think we're coming out. I always feel like we're coming out of it, but then I
get
go
sucked
into like a
back in.
Walmart or something. I'm like, we're not coming out of this because
Right.
there's a lot of big people around here, you know? And so I just sometimes I wonder, like,
It goes back to money, though. Like what we were
Goes back
talking
to
about
money.
earlier. Why would they allow us to be able to heal ourselves and take care of ourselves with lifestyle choices if they can sell us Ozempic and make billions?
yeah,
Why would they want us to know that the sunlight is good for us and helps set our circadian rhythm, which helps our sleep, which allows us to feel better, which is better for our hormones and all
Right.
that stuff? Why would they want us to know that?
I don't know.
If you were in there, like I understand why they do it. They got yachts. If I had a yacht, I'd probably be like, whatever to keep my yacht. Like I understand why they keep doing what they're doing. They're never gonna let it go though. So it's really up to us as people to decide, I don't want this in my life.
Right.
And set that example for your family and hope that your children do the same for their children.
I will say economics, it is different. It's difficult, not different. It's difficult because some people everybody has to get up and go into a job. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to, but it sure does make life a whole lot easier if you can pay your bills.
Right.
So you get up and you go into that job, and then you do this mind-numbing bullshit for as long as you can stand it, and then you go home.
I challenge that narrative though.
Well, okay.
Why do you have to go to the job with the mind numbing bullshit?
I don't.
Some people do.
I choose not to. I choose to work where I want to work, right? Which I've had. In fact, in our yoga class, I had somebody kind of give me a hard time about saying, "Why are you doing that? I don't do it." And then I was given the whole, "That's a white privilege, white male privilege thing," and it was coming from a white woman, and I'm like, "Well, no, I'm trying to tell you that my own personal belief is if they're not treating me well, I'm going to leave."
Right.
Right?
As
This
a
is part of my
dignified human
healing
would
journey.
feel.
Yeah, but I think that a lot of the problem is that people are not taught at any point in time, don't work there anymore. Right? I've always told my children, don't work there anymore if they're not treating you well. If you're not getting what you need out of them, then don't do that. Go work somewhere else.
But there is a generation of like loyalty where there's that generation. I don't know if it's the boomers or the Gen Xers
the
where they're like,
boomers.
you stay with the company, you're company
It's the
man.
boomers. The Gen Xers learned that the company was going to get rid of you
Right.
no matter what.
You're not actually family.
The boomers are the work hard, play little generation. The Gen Xers were the work hard, play hard generation.
Mm-hmm.
The millennials, you're a millennial? Are you a millennial?
I think I just make the cutoff for Gen Z.
Yeah.
Because what's the year? Do you know?
No clue. Jacob, do you know the
it's 96.
Did you just know that off the top of your head? That is
I
impressive.
give him a hard time for being a millennial.
My
even
friends
though he's
are
not.
also ridiculously litigious about that because most of them don't want to be millennials,
Right.
even though they are.
They take pride in which side of the
Yeah.
coin they fall on. Okay, then I am a Gen Z because I was
Yeah.
born in 98.
In general, I think most millennials are firmly okay with being millennials, and then people on the cusp are like, I ain't part of that.
Right.
shit.
I don't want to be a part of it. I'm like, I'm a Gen Z.
What does
What?
that say about millennials? Do you think?
Yeah.
I think the millennials were the play hard, work little
Yes.
crowd, and then I think the Gen Zers and the Gen Zers are gonna come up the rear and become the new boomers, maybe.
It'll be really interesting, actually, to see what happens.
Because everything's cyclical. The weather's cyclical. Life is
Right.
cyclical. You know, you're born, then you die, and then another person's born and they die. It's just everything's cyclical.
But at the same time, the Gen Zers have seen so much prosperity that didn't require a lot of hard work.
Well, I imagine that if you were to look at statistics, we're probably due for this World War III thing that they're talking about.
Oh, yeah. They're trying to put us in one right now.
Yeah, we're probably already in it. We don't even know it.
Unfortunately, probably true.
However, I think that that's when the reset happens, right? That's when tough times breed hard men, and hard men breed soft times. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
soft
what is
men or
that
something tough
cycle?
Soft. Yeah, I don't know.
I know exactly what it is, but if you ask me to say it, I'm going to butcher it.
Sense, though, right?
It's true, though. It's cyclical,
Yeah.
like you said.
So it'll come back.
Yeah.
It'll eventually come back, and I maybe I'll live long enough to see it come back, swing into that motion, but then it'll go away again because that's just the way life is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's all very interesting.
I wonder if there's a way to... That it's probably not possible. I wonder if there's a way to break that cycle. Like the strong men, hard times,
I think
weak
that
men.
we've broken a lot of cycles. I think that a lot of cycles are being broken. I think it just takes so long that we as humans can't comprehend the minor changes that are in
As
it,
they're happening.
as we're in it. It's like when you're around somebody for so long and they get fatter or they get skinnier, you don't really see that. And so while we're walking through this world, we don't get to see all the wonderful changes that are happening. This is probably the best time to be alive. It's the easiest time to be alive.
Absolutely.
Not everybody has it easy, but even underprivileged poor people have tiny computers that they walk around with where they can get any information they want at any moment in time.
And even more than ease is just convenience. Convenience has never been so
Absolutely
prevalent in every aspect of our life.
Think about just Amazon, for instance. Like you just get on your phone, privilege, dial it up, and then somebody brings it to you.
Disappears.
Yeah, it just appears.
The
out of
stork
nowhere.
drops off.
Yeah.
24 hours later. Yeah.
I mean, it's literally the best time to live, but that time at some point has to crash. Something will happen. I thought the pandemic was it, and then I realized that was a what does it call, a false flag or a red flag event or something
Yeah.
where. I thought it would be like the sci-fi movies where you walk outside and people are just dying in the street,
If they're not dying, they're turning into zombies.
Yeah,
They're
or
eating your
something.
neighbor.
I was ready.
Yeah.
My best friend, he was kind of anti-gun, and he went and bought a gun.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, he went and bought a gun,
Because
and
this is America.
it was more like, well, he had a little girl, and so he's like, okay, well,
How do I protect her?
how do I protect this
Can't
girl?
count on the cops.
Yeah. And so it was very interesting.
It was an interesting time.
It was an interesting time. It turned some people into some things and turned some people into some other things.
Yeah.
It didn't unify us as much as I thought it should have.
I think it unified the two groups of
divided.
people. It divided,
definitely divided.
but within those groups, it unified those people even more.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
Probably. I will always look fondly back on the pandemic, and I'm sure there's not a lot of people who can say that.
No, I feel the same way. That's funny that you say that because I have some great memories from the craziest year.
I had some great memories that were epic in a very surrealistic way, like walking into an airport and being one of 15 people in the entire airport, and then getting on a plane, one of 3 people on that plane, and then flying off and landing and going to do my job, and then getting back on a plane and flying home. And it's this is the strangest thing. Usually I've got to worry about seat space, and I've got to worry about who am I going to sit by and whatever. And now I'm the only person on this whole entire plane, and why they're even lifting up off the air, because they're not making any money off of this trip. They've got to be losing money. It's just strange things like that. I remember driving around the 2 weeks that everybody was supposed to stay inside. I wasn't.
I was in Colorado.
I was driving around the freeways in Phoenix. Like the cops weren't out. Nobody was out. It was
Yeah.
amazing. And
Free for all.
occasionally somebody would drive by and you're like, hey. It felt like Night of the Living Dead. Like
Yes.
the comet hit
Like a sci-fi movie.
and everybody was gone and I was the only one there. I thought, this is amazing. Why would I not want to experience that? Why would
Right.
I not want to go out? I don't
But you also clearly had no fear of this
I was
virus.
very lucky. I got the sickness before other people, before anybody knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I had what I would call probably like the worst flu that I ever had in my life. But I never felt like I was going to die. And I stayed in bed probably for about 5 days, sweated it out, got up, felt okay, kept moving. Why was I lucky? I was lucky because nobody ever took me to a hospital, put a ventilator on me, and then choked me out.
There it is, right
Yeah.
there. All those people didn't come home.
And then also critical thinking, I knew I had immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And also whatever the Chinese did to that thing, I haven't been very sick.
Oh, really?
Since.
You think your immunity has
I don't
been
know
better
what it
since?
is. I mean, I don't know what it is. I'm sure the
Interesting.
day that I die is going to be the day that I die. But also, I haven't had a whole lot of disease in my life since then.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. So I don't know if my body fortified or what. And look, this is like, when people say I smoke weed, but I've never been high. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm saying that I don't remember being as sick as I had been before.
Yeah.
So, or that I have had before. Also, I don't have little kids in my house anymore. I'm not a father of kids anymore that go to school and bring stuff back. But, I have to go places for work and do things. I have to travel. And I don't remember having the flu since then. So,
That is interesting.
yeah.
We're going to have to do some tests on you
I
now.
think that a lot of people, yeah, we should, huh? I think a lot of people probably have been affected in ways they've never even thought about. That's what concerns me about the world.
What do you mean by that?
Well, people don't stop and think, how did this event affect me? They just
COVID in general,
a lot of
the
people
pandemic?
have really forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Like until you bring it up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that really sucked, didn't it?" Well, yeah, that fucking sucked.
Don't you think people just wanted to forget about it though?
Maybe, but why?
I agree with you.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to learn from what's happened?
Well, I think that's partially the division is people that did learn from it and they now believe this and they're over in this corner, and the people that didn't learn from it, they just want to forget and, oh yeah, I guess. And it's like, no. There was a virus let out of a lab in another country and it was weaponized against the entire world, and you're not asking questions.
Right.
There's that group of people too, right? So there's two different camps going on there, but
Yeah.
I'm with you. Why wouldn't you want to know?
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, I don't really even care where it came from and what happened. I more care about what people inside of them, what they learned about themselves in that time. Were they the person who was screaming at a person for not wearing a mask? Were they a person who was telling people that they can't come into a restaurant because they don't have a vaccination card? Were they the person who was a real asshole to the person who did the job, who told them they can't come into the restaurant? There was all of those people existed.
Yes.
And all of them fuckers are still out there. And I often wonder if they ever think back to, man, I was a real dickhead for yelling at that girl who was a hostess at that restaurant because she wouldn't let me into the restaurant because I didn't have a vaccination card.
I think that's part of the problem is that we lost some of our humanity.
Yeah.
But that's what happens with the mask. And, not to sound like a psyop or anything here, but there was a whole thing about that when they were forcing people to wear masks about how the reason that there are cultures in the Middle East that make women do it is partially because it's demeaning. And when you can't see someone's face and you can only see their eyes, there's a whole psychology behind how that affects our interaction. Our communication, things like that, right? So when they were doing that, I'm just like, we don't realize it. We are dehumanizing each other.
Yeah. And how come people don't remember the time when all you could see was somebody's eyes?
Yes.
How creepy was that?
Awful. And I was such a rebel child. I'm pretty sure I told the Menards security guard to lick my cock when he told me that I had to buy a $1 mask if I wanted to shop in that store for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I said those words. Maybe not happy about it, but I was so upset about that right and that enforcement when I knew it was wrong. I inherently was like, this is wrong. I see what's going on here. The fact that you guys don't, or the fact that you're just going along with it, really bothers me as an
Right,
American
right,
citizen.
right.
Really bothers me. So there were some choice words that most definitely came out of my mouth. But I was that person. When I was at Iowa State at the time, going to school up in Ames, a little bit more liberal, smaller city in Iowa.
Yeah.
I would be the only person walking around in Hy-Vee without a mask on, and
Right.
people would.
I can't believe she's like
Yeah,
that.
and they'd say it right to my face, or they'd say it as soon as they pass me, typically, and I'd be like,
You'd
"What'd
hear
you
a
say?"
guffaw or something,
Yeah, and it just amazes me. It's like, if you have a mask on, don't you feel protected?
Yeah, right.
Why are you concerned if I have one on or not?
I will say that one of my best friends, he says I'll probably never do that again, and in fact, he would say he didn't do a lot of that mask wearing. I agree with you to a degree. I think that I was okay with wearing a mask if it made people around me feel safer.
But a false sense of security?
Yeah, well, I mean, if it was going to make them feel safer, I was okay with it, as long as it didn't hurt. As long as I didn't feel like it was hurting my health. I didn't like go out into the public and just wear a mask for like 8 to 10 hours. I didn't drive around by myself with a mask on. You know, remember
Right.
seeing that?
Oh, yes.
But I mean, if it made people feel more comfortable to be out, I kind of feel sympathy for the people who felt like they were going to die if the people near them didn't wear a mask.
That's very empathetic of you.
Yeah, I maybe.
I think that shows your heart.
I think that, I mean, it's just it's a sad thing, and I tried to think of all the reasons why I wouldn't want to wear a mask. I tried to think of all that. Like, why should I wear a mask? I don't think this is going to work. It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense that this mask covering my face is going to stop the virus. I'm sure it helped some, because it makes sense that it would help a little bit, but I don't think that it helped to the extent where people thought that if they were anywhere near you and you didn't have a mask on, we're near people all the time. Mm-hmm. People aren't passing sicknesses that fast, that rapidly. We would all be laying down right now if that was the case. And I think that a lot of those people started killing their immune system with the alcohol, with the rubbing alcohol that they put on their hands and stuff. And man, we were just talking the other day, we wish restaurants were cleaning their restaurants the way they were back then.
Thank
Now,
God. Yeah. Or gyms, you know.
or any place, really.
Everyone was cleaning their equipment after COVID at the gym.
Yeah, I remember going to Denny's and getting breakfast and getting they couldn't have salt and pepper shakers, remember that, or shared ketchup.
Oh yeah.
And so I mean, there's just so many things that if you like really think back, there were lots of really crazy things that we did to let the government know that it was okay for people to have their businesses open, is really what it was.
Or to have our freedoms taken away.
Yeah.
That's what pissed me off the most about that, is how willingly we were willing to give up our freedoms for the false illusion of safety.
Yeah.
That is exactly like what happens within communism.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't you fuckers see it? Like, if we give them this, they will take a mile next time.
Yeah.
We cannot budge.
I think we gave it to them.
I think we did, but I think they underestimated us as we the people.
I think so too.
Because I think a lot of people woke up and a lot of people started talking about it.
I think that we gave it to them, and then they won't be able to take it next time. Now,
Yeah.
I am a little afraid, like if a real pandemic happens,
Like a real one where people
like
go
where
to
people
zombies.
they turn into zombies or werewolves or something.
Welcome to the jungle.
yeah.
I'm ready.
I'm afraid that it's going to go off without a hitch, because maybe that's what they wanted to do. They wanted us all to go, no, we're not going to do what you
Right.
tell us next time. And then we all just get sick and die. Who knows?
That'd be a really good sci-fi movie.
That would be, yeah.
You're just giving Hollywood all the
Be a hell of a
ideas right now.
psyop, wouldn't it?
It would be, yeah. I mean, a play on a play right there.
It's
You might be onto something.
It's ridiculous. So what do you think? The next 4 years is going to be good?
I'm hopeful.
Yeah. I think it's odd that I see and know people who aren't hopeful and they're scared. And then I think it's odd that I'm hopeful. I think that it's going to go well. I think we are going to hit a brick wall first, and then it's going to loosen up. But I feel sorry for those people who, if they are genuinely scared, the people on TikTok and whatnot, the ones that are yelling into their hands because Trump won or because of whatever. I really hope that they are seeking the help that they need to get through whatever it is that they have going on in their minds and their bodies, right? Because being scared is not fun. Mm-hmm. Even when you're at a movie and you're getting scared, it's not really necessarily fun. It's afterwards like, oh, I lived, that's great. But if they are really truly worried, I really hope that they are getting the help that they need. I'm lucky. I've never been really afraid of like if Biden got, or if Hillary Clinton, who I would not have ever voted for and would have begged people not to put her in there, if she had gotten in there, I don't think I would have been scared. But also, I don't think I'm the type of person to get scared at a whole lot of things. Mm-hmm. What would scare me? Somebody coming into my house to kill me and my kids.
Yeah.
That would scare me.
Right.
I think that's the extent of it.
And I think some people had that exact scenario in their head when they voted this time because of the border. There's people that have actually had that crisis happen. That girl that was killed in Georgia on a college campus.
Right.
By a Venezuelan immigrant. Can't really say immigrant because he didn't immigrate, you know, it was a real reality for a lot of people. And it's like, well, depending on who you're voting for, that could be a reality that comes to your life.
True. I think that overall, I think that a lot of these people think that the government is going to come for them because of Donald Trump. And I think that is where the media and the government has gone wrong. They've got to stop using the fear tactics, right?
But fear is the strongest emotion, so they're always going to use it.
Fear is the I don't know if it's the strongest emotion.
It's probably the biggest motivator.
The biggest motivator.
Yeah, you're right. I would agree with that.
And so I don't know. I don't want people to be dead inside like me.
You're such an empathetic person.
But
it's like your superpower, but it's also like what makes you stay up at night. I can tell.
I think what I mean, though, is like to be able to critically go through my head and go, okay, everything's going to be fine, and not be afraid, right? So I kind of, if I do start to feel like something's amiss or something's awry, I can logically step through like what the next 10 moves are going to be. In whatever this new adventure that's about to pounce on me is going to be. But I think a lot of people just hear, you know, Trump's going to get the military and deport everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
He's going to kill all the gay people.
Yeah. I think that's like they believe that, and that's what scares me.
Yes.
Right? And you were talking about the public school system, and I think that the problem is with that is that the public school system is the only people teaching children and not the parents. Parents send their kids off to school, and then they allow whoever that person is that they've never really met to teach them things that they shouldn't be teaching them.
For an entire year. They have your kid for an entire year. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're very informative years.
Yes.
Instead of, and this is, and maybe we'll have another podcast at some point, but this is, instead of, we no longer have this thing where a man and a woman get together, or a partner and a partner, I don't mind saying get together, and one person raises the children at home and the other person is the breadwinner. Those days are so fucking gone.
Yes and no. I think people are trying to bring it back.
Well, I mean, I think they're trying to bring it back, but however, there's too many variables in it.
Are you coming at it from an economy standpoint of like it's so hard to provide, have one income to provide?
I think yes. I think it's hard to start out.
Oh yeah.
In a good spot. And that's usually when families start to form. So if you're 24 and she's 24 and you have a kid and you have a job, you're a 24-year-old man, or even if say you're a lesbian couple, you're a 24-year-old woman, and your job isn't going to pay a lot.
Right. When you're 24.
So, yeah. And that's when you start going, okay, well, what do we do with this kid while we both work so that we can pay rent? Because rent is very expensive. Mm-hmm. And so it is an economy thing. Now, maybe you suffer through it. Maybe you do it for the greater good.
I think that is the question of go to the people out in Iowa right now that are doing it.
Right.
I know multiple families that are doing it. I know multiple families that are doing it with 3-4 children.
Yes. But they're probably also doing it with a different upbringing. And that's the difference.
And their expectations of what their quality of life has to look like
It's true.
is different than mine.
Do they
Is
need
different
three
than
TVs?
yours. Right, exactly.
Do they need a gaming computer?
Exactly.
Does everybody need a phone?
The question should not be, what do I want? Is, what do I have the ability to go without?
Right.
And I think just growing up in America, we are the nation of plentiful. And you can always get more. And you can throw it away and buy another one, right? We get rid of things so quickly. But if we start looking at, like, what do I really need to live? And what's going to be most important to me? And where can I put my money so I can spend more time with my kids? So I don't spend all my time in a job I hate, etc. Like, so you can live the life you want to live. You have to ask yourself, what am I willing to give up?
Right.
And I think that's just a very hard question that people don't want to ask themselves.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go for like expensive apartments or houses. I think people go for expensive cars.
Yeah. It's the dumbest thing in the world. I sometimes kick myself for buying that truck. I'm like, I could have gotten by with something.
Way different.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I
Agreed.
think there's a concept of like, I think I need this and I'd really like it to be this nice or have these features. And then it ends up and you're like,
Holy cow.
is that really what I need?
Right,
But
right.
like it just kind of compounds on top of things.
Yeah, I knew a woman once who had a car. She hated it. So she had feelings about it. And then she had put a lot of money into it to fix it. And then after she fixed it, she said, I've replaced everything in this car. I'm going to go buy a new car. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She was a work friend. We were all sitting at I think it was a holiday lunch. We were all together. What do you mean? You said you just fixed this thing and nothing else needs to be fixed in it. And now you're going to sell it and buy a new car with a payment? What in the world are you talking about? Yeah, I'm
Right.
just so tired of it. So there's a lot of emotions in it. And like with most things, there's emotion in all of it. Birthday cake, there's emotion in it, right? Mm-hmm. Now everybody eats lots of cake or lots of ice cream because we were trained at one point in time that you only had this stuff on very special days. Mm-hmm. And if you were a very special person. And now you're eating cake and ice cream because you want to feel like a very special person on a very special day. My father used to take me out of school on draft day for NFL, and we would go to a place called Native New Yorker. It was a wing place, basically like a Buffalo Wild Wings, and we would have wings and we would watch the draft. Mm-hmm. So I have an affinity for wings. I love eating chicken wings. I don't know if it's the taste. I don't know what it is, but I love eating chicken wings because it was a special time. It was a special place.
Well, there's an emotional
It's
attachment.
an emotional
to
attachment to that thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Life is gonna be interesting coming up.
Yeah, these next 4 years.
What are you gonna be doing going forward? What do you got on the horizon? Anything fun? Anything you can talk about?
I have some ideas. I have some children, plural.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm probably not gonna say them just because
Okay.
they're still like being cooked up.
Okay.
And you'll hear about it if I do it, and when I do it, I should say when.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in progress. And I'm always scared to share my dreams to a degree, just because you feel like if you don't go through with it or if it doesn't work out, then people will look at you like a failure.
Right.
And inherently, I think we're all a little scared of failure, some more than others. I try not to be. I try not to let like other people's perception of like my success or failure dictate my actions and how I feel and things like that. But there's always some of that, right? It's like, man, if I do this and it doesn't work out like how I want it to,
Right.
how are people going to look at me after that? I don't know.
How are you gonna look at you after that?
That's more scary. That's the more terrifying part.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I have to look at me every day in the mirror when I wake up.
How weird is it that we're harder on ourselves than other people are hard on us? Like internally, I'm harder on me than
Right.
other people are on me. I'm probably harder on me than I am on other people. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely harder on me than I am on other people. I tell people, you think I'm hard on you? You don't want to be in here.
You don't want to be inside my head
You don't wanna be in
every
here.
day
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
wake
yeah.
up. It's true.
Well, thanks for coming on my podcast.
Yes, thanks for
It's so
having
great
me.
to have you here.
It
I
was
hope
so
we get
good
to
to
do it
see you again. Oh
I
my
know,
gosh.
You live off in what is
Neverland.
It? Dutchland?
Partially,
Is
yeah.
it?
Sometimes I'm there, and sometimes I'm actually up here in Des Moines because my boyfriend lives in West Des Moines.
Yeah.
So I kind of get like the country life, and then sometimes I can be
Uh-huh.
a city girl on the weekend. So it's
Would you
kinda
say
fun.
you're 50-50 at this point?
I don't know. It really depends on the time of year.
Really?
That's when it probably differs the most. Right now, I've been up in Des Moines quite a bit, just because so many events and things like this are happening in Des Moines. So I think it depends on the
It's
season.
kind of nice
though.
that you can do that, though.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the flexibility of it because me not having to drive home tonight's really nice that I can just
Yeah, hop on over there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll go get some seafood tonight. I don't know. We'll see.
Text ahead, let them know.
Yeah. Well,
Guess
you
what?
mentioned it, and I was
Did he?
like, oh,
Sounds good.
yeah. I was like, should we?
I love that for him.
Yeah. He's a good one.